meetings. Oops, sorry. You're on it. I'm John Block, Engineering Contractors Association. We'll go this way.
Steve Bernal with the Sierra Club.
Tom Conlon with the Sonoma County Conservation Coalition.
Rick Letman, Sonoma County League of Women Voters.
Eris Weaver, Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition.
Mark Hale, Building Industry Association.
Jerry Glazer, North Bay Electric Auto Association.
Tom Banning, District 3.
You sure?
Yes.
Coming and going.
Kathleen Cortez, Area Agency on Aging.
Jeff Blakesley, SOS Roads. Dennis Harder, Sonoma County Alliance.
All right, and we'll go to the back. Mostly staff, but anybody from the public back there? Okay.
James Cameron, SCTA.
Ross Bundell, CTA.
In transit. And on the screen via Zoom, how we do this, Drew?
Adam Garcia, SCTA, RCPA.
Lando Ramirez with Caltrans.
Put that in the CTA, RCPA.
All right, well, thank you all for being here. And do we officially have a quorum so we can conduct business?
Miss Jim.
I'm sorry. Oh, Jennifer.
Hi. John.
Hi, Jennifer. Wine growers. Did you bring some wine?
I did not this time. Next time.
Anyways, thank you all for coming. I know everybody's busy. Any public comments that are not on the regular agenda? Items not on the regular agenda. Seeing none, we'll go to administrative items and approval of the July 31st meeting minutes. Would somebody make a motion for that? In a second, we can have discussion.
Comment.
Yes.
On item 5 regarding the membership organization, I had made some comments about equity and inclusion. They were left out. And I just want everybody in this committee to realize that the County of Sonoma Board of Supervisors adopted a strategic plan. And one of the pillars in that strategic plan is racial equity and social justice. So just would like it recognized. If we don't want to talk about it, that's fine, but to exclude the conversation, I can't accept the minutes that way.
So Kathleen, we talked about this last month. I was on a vacation,
Yeah, we
so I
were talking about
didn't.
memberships and I think this gentleman mentioned he's been here for 30 years. And I said, well, the county's changed a lot in 30 years. And that maybe we should open up the membership to groups that maybe weren't considered 30 years ago or whenever the membership was. I do think that we need people at the table who represent Latinx, non-English speakers. I represent older adults, people with disabilities. I don't see that she's here today, but we're talking about taxpayer dollars and non-white people pay taxes, as do older adults and other people. And I think that they should have a voice as to how taxes are spent.
Do you have anybody specifically in mind that you could get an appointment made by somebody?
I don't know. I've had a conversation with Herman J. Hernandez. He's very vocal about his people being excluded from these types of conversations. I could follow up with him and see if he has any recommendations. It's very technical, so it's difficult for me to follow, but I know my directive is to come here and speak for my constituents who are older adults and people with disabilities. But I do know that there's a lot of talk, not just with SCTA plans, but other departments in the county as well about not having things in Spanish or other languages, and the planning just is not including the voices of all people.
Okay, does anybody have any other comments on that?
Just that we are working on those, in a number of ways, and I know that in the outreach that we continually do, the issue that we're running into with like North Bay organizing project and organizations like that was they can send a representative, however, it's going to look very similar to all the people in this room, unfortunately, just for bandwidth reasons. So we're certainly working on that.
Yeah, no, I understand, and it's a difficult conversation to have. I just feel like it should be recorded that the conversation did take place. That's all I ask.
Fair enough. Yes. Tom.
So out of respect to Kathleen's comments, as well as I know staff's doing a good job of recording our minutes. I appreciate the minutes being done within a month's time. That's often not common in other bodies around the county. So I would respectfully move to table today's minutes on our agenda and hope that staff takes these comments to heart and makes a modification to the minutes as currently drafted. And that'd be my humble motion.
Okay. Do we have a second for that?
Second.
Okay.
Can
Any discussion on that?
we just have the staff add that?
Yeah.
Was
Can we
there
just-
amendments?
Yeah, add that comment to the.
I think that's another option. I don't know if that would be a friendly amendment or to the motion.
But
The motion would then be that the staff, we approve the minutes with the caveat that there's going to be an additional disclosure, public disclosure of what got discussed last month about inclusion and equity. Would that satisfy the motioner and the second?
But wouldn't it be a good idea for us to see it?
yeah, my concern is that, and I think we all experience this on topics that are of interest to us in the minutes. We've now gone to minutes that are reflective of the videotape itself, which is the definitive record of our meetings. But I think to Kathleen's point, we would like to be sure that the written version is capturing the spirit of the discussion around this table. So while I appreciate moving things along, I don't think we, by deferring our minutes approval today, I don't think we complicate anything. And I think it might be just helpful to finalize the
Fair enough.
text.
We're still in discussion. Was there anything else last month that was as important in the minutes that by tabling them and not approving them, anybody could see might become a problem in the next 3 or 4 weeks? Seeing none, staff, Ross, Drew. Appreciate the effort there, and so I think we're ready to call for the question. The motion stands and is seconded as presented. All those in favor of that motion to table the minutes, say aye. Any nays?
Hey,
1 nay, 1 abstention, because I was not here. Okay. Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you for that discussion. Measure items. We are on to project presentations, the Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition. Shauna. Where's Shauna?
Sean is on vacation.
Oh, okay. What?
it's gonna be a very short presentation.
Yeah. Does it go straight to Aaron?
Well,
There.
actually, it was Christina Ponza, my education director. who
Okay.
was To be doing that, and she.
I
there on
didn't-
Zoom.
See her up there.
I literally just got back from vacation, so I have not had a chance to speak with
We
her.
could come back to it if she's running a little bit late, you think?
Yeah, I don't see, I can't read the names up there. Pardon?
I don't see problems.
Okay, I'll text her if we want to.
Okay.
Go to the next item and.
My
come back.
suggestion is we just go to the Go Sonoma expenditure plan graphic with Ross and come back to number 4A later.
For recording purposes. Thank you. See, we'll put that on the screen. So as requested by this committee, we've included a new graphic that illustrates the breakdown of Go Sonoma fund use. The main chart represents the overall Go Sonoma percentages: Go Sonoma roads, build bikeways and pathways, Go Sonoma transit, and MTIS, move traffic, improve safety. And then as we move down farther and drill in deeper, some more explanation is required. So the Go Sonoma transit percentage includes 3% before the revenues are apportioned to the operators that will be used for community benefits to support first and last mile and commuter programs, as well as 2% of each operator's apportionment is eligible for free fare programs. on a reimbursement basis. So the operators will have to invoice for that up to 2% of their annual apportionment. Then looking at the combined build bikeways and pathways and move traffic, improve safety percentages, up to 5% of the competitive projects categories is proposed for capacity building activities, including grant application support to leverage Go Sonoma funds. Lastly, we have the Go Sonoma versus Measure M funding split. That is included the next graphic for your reference. We've certainly shown that before. But yeah, we just wanted to use this to further illustrate that. And please let us know if you have any questions on existing Measure M or the upcoming Go Sonoma percentages.
Okay, excellent. Any questions or comments, Tom?
I just want to be sure I understand that Go Sonoma transit breakout. Under our current Measure M, all that money passes through SCTA and goes directly to the transit operators. Under this program, that 5%, I think it is, first and last mile and free fare would be held for SCTA administration. Is that how that's set up, or am I misunderstanding that?
Might reach out to James to
Yeah.
clarify.
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk about it. So the specific question was with regard to transit. So there is some changes with regard to how we're going to address the transit funds available. The 10%, so reading from the graphic that you're all looking in front of you, the 10% is essentially what's going right now through apportionment to all of the transit operators, right? When I say the transit operators, I'm really just referring to the 3 bus operators in our county. The 8% is to enhance that service. So it's going to continue the enhancements that Measure M brought, and then there's going to be additional 8% that's going to be their discretion on how to advance or improve their service, and then they will report out to you annually, similar to the way they report out to you annually on the 10% they get. The other 2 categories are the 3% and the 2% that I believe you were referring to, Tom, as the 5% that does not go to them. So the way those programs work is that the 3% is a first and last mile program that will be administered by the SCTA. So this will be a very, completely new and unique delivery of how to address first and last mile strategies within Sonoma County. There has not been a plan developed. We did not have anything in our draft policies that went to you last month. We're working on that as staff on how to roll out and make recommendations to this committee and the board for those expenditures. They could be anything from expanding the bike share pilot project that we're working on advancing now to more micro transit, similar to what's happening up at the airport, but essentially TDM strategies or travel demand strategies countywide throughout all the jurisdictions as well as Sonoma County. The last 2% is a free fare program. So our transit operators are implementing free fare programs for youth, and we're looking to expand those free fare programs. It will not just be apportionment where the funds go to them based on percentage. It will be on a reimbursement basis. So the reimbursement basis will be up to their apportionment amount. So they will essentially provide free fares, track those, and if they spend their population share of that 2% on providing free rides, they will be reimbursed that amount. So essentially implementing their free fare programs that they're doing now, or having funds to continue them because some of them are pilots with only limited fund sources. Our transit dollars to our bus operators are going to go from 10% to 20%, essentially doubling, and we're going to have this new first and last mile program that is 3% of the sales tax measure.
Thank you for explaining that. That's what I basically had kind of read, I think, and understood before, but I think it's important for us to have a handle on it because I think this is a good, we've gotten a lot of feedback from transit users and folks that would use transit if it was easier to do so. And they want a little more integration of the system. And so I think SCTA doing these programs is going to help break down the silo that we've been fighting against with the transit agencies and just structural problem for a long time. So I think it's a good thing. I just want everybody else to have happy to talk about it around the table.
Couple other comments, Eris,
Yeah,
and then Tom next.
So I just want to make sure I'm understanding this right. Part of what threw me on this, if this is the Go Sonoma thing, that having Measure M written in there as one of the categories is confusing to me. So that amount is just divvied up based on size of the operators.
Correct. So it's based on a population share.
Population of
Yeah.
who uses it. Okay,
Yes.
and then, yeah, so taking Measure M out of that would be less confusing.
Yep.
And then I somehow missed the enhanced service part. How is that divvied up?
So the enhanced service will be, so right now, 10% of the measure is divvied up based on
Mhm.
population share. In the future, it will be 18% that's divvied up. So consolidation makes a lot of sense. Your comments well noted, and in our final plan, we can implement that. This was to distinguish to the committee, the changes that are happening.
Right.
But that 8% will be divvied up the same way the 10% is divvied up now. So it will be 18% divvied up between the 3 bus operators by population share.
Okay.
And
okay.
it's called enhancement because it's going to be over and above the services they're providing now.
Is that primarily headway?
What's
Is
that?
that primarily headway?
It's typically given to the bus operators to make those decisions and recommendations. So headways are definitely something that is part of it, but it could be expanded service, could be new route. It's to be determined. And this committee would have oversight of those expenditures.
Tom had a question, I think.
So the 10 and the 8%,
Jeff.
that's strictly for operational costs or also for capital?
They have the flexibility to use it on capital as well. They typically have capital means because of the funding that's available, and it will typically be spent on operations primarily.
And population share is just by definition, how many people are in the area or what the current use is?
Sure. So it is really based on the population of the jurisdiction. So in the case of
Sonoma
the
County
Santa Rosa,
Transit.
right? So Sonoma County Transit is the most complicated one, right? So because they get credit for all the jurisdictions that they serve, with the exception of Santa Rosa and Petaluma.
Okay.
Right, so Santa Rosa gets population of Santa Rosa divided by the total, population in the county. Petaluma gets the Petaluma divided by the total population, and essentially the percentage that's left all goes to the county.
Okay.
Jeff,
thank you.
and then back to Jerry.
Is the 2% free fare, is that use it or lose it type of thing?
So it is, and so and that's going to be a policy that this committee will be able to chime in on. The discussion at the staff level would be to make it a use it or lose it, to where if one of the bus transit operators is not using it, then it would open it up on an annual basis to the other transit operators to provide free fares.
Jerry, and then to Rick.
On the first last mile portion, is the idea that SCTA will identify the programs and then tell which of the agencies to execute them, or are you thinking about something separate?
Yeah, we have not made that decision yet, and we need this committee to chime in on that decision and then have a board recommendation. So it's a to be determined. I would imagine that it will involve some sort of countywide TDM plan, or at least some blueprint of the types of projects and programs that we want to implement, and then we'll need to make decisions what makes sense for SCTA to implement versus what could be a competitive call or a formulaic distribution for our jurisdictions to deliver those programs.
Okay, Rick.
Regarding first and last mile, my general philosophy on that problem is that the best way to solve it is to eliminate it. Make sure people are living and working and shopping close enough to transit that there isn't a mile to walk, or otherwise close. Is any of this money available for projects that would do that?
So a land use project or a housing project, is that what you're referring to? Or you could clarify?
Well, I don't have anything specific in mind, but it just seems to me that we should be working on eliminating first and last mile entirely.
Yeah.
And I just wondered if any of this money could be used for something like that.
Yeah, so it is a transportation specific sales tax. So as long as we are working on transportation and addressing transportation, it's eligible.
It's not for land use.
Yeah, and I just had one comment before we go back to Tom. Harris, I usually agree with everything you say. I really like seeing that differentiation between Measure M and the Go Sonoma Act. So I would suggest whether you put it in parentheses or something. I need that reminder to see where we were and where we're gonna be. I find it useful.
I believe the subsequent image too, in the packet. Kevin. So it's that.
Okay.
Not visually, but number.
So-
Okay,
Drew, maybe you could click on that other tab that's there. This is us basically including this in the packet because we
Right.
anticipated this question. So in here is where it's much clearer how it works, right? Where you really only have one Go Sonoma logo and what Go Sonoma was, and then you have one
I
Measure M
see.
logo. and
I'm
what it
sorry, I
is.
see what you're referring to this, and I'm looking at this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like this.
but it makes
Okay,
sense. to-
sorry about
yeah.
that. Okay. Tom, did you have another comment? And then Steve.
Well, maybe getting back to Rick's comment on enhancement can that be? If one of the operators wanted to pay someone to do a study to adjust routes to improve ridership or equity or what have you, they could apply for that kind of money and say, we want to adjust things and hopefully boost ridership.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And Steve.
So about a year ago, or almost a year, maybe 9 months ago, the Air Resources Board established a goal of doubling the amount of transit available. Have we begun any discussions about how we're gonna do that?
Yeah, I would refer to, I don't know of anything like that firsthand. I can do the phone a friend here if we want to like. Active and shared modes planner.
Yeah.
I would just say that. The people at home probably did, so.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, if you could come up to the, it'd be easier for them to see who's speaking.
I don't know of any expansion of funding to the scale that would double transit. Or come even close to it, so that's a great goal, and I hope to see it happen, but I do not think that it's in the works.
Well, they're looking out to the years 2030 and 2045, so we got some time, but I'm just curious what we're thinking about at this point.
And I think this additional funding helps, but not quite enough.
Did you want us to provide any direction on what you presented so far on your graphic plan, or do you want to wait until the end and?
No, the intention of this item was to be responsive to the committee. So we
Okay.
provided some policy decisions or policy recommendations at the last meeting. And this graphic, well, not the one that's on the screen now, but the prior graphic was requested. So
Okay,
that's the graphic to go along with last month's item, talking about Go Sonoma items to give you that visual that was requested.
thank you.
John, one more question.
Mark?
So the MTIS component, the 27%, how does that competition work? How do those projects come to fruition?
Yeah, no, great question. It's a competitive call, right? So essentially SCTA puts out calls for projects and says, which projects do you want to deliver? All right, and we expect those projects to be part of the long-term planning here, right? So they'll be part of the comprehensive transportation plan. And then each jurisdiction submits an application that details their projects and how they address the program goals. Staff will grade those applications or rate them, and then make recommendations to this committee for which projects would be successful in funding. And then it would go to the board for programming. The first round of the move traffic and improve safety category has been programmed. It occurred in February of this year for the initial programming, and it was a very robust call that went out to, you know, all 10 jurisdictions, public works departments, as well as the 3 transit operators and 3 bus operators and SMART submitting applications.
Is that what shows in the funded table that we see in a subsequent slide? Or is that-
Correct. Yeah, that's yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of money programmed in there.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Is that competitive process changing? I know we've had some discussion in the past over how you're qualifying some of these projects and so forth. Can you just kind of refresh our memory on that process in the short version?
Sure. And this is a little segue into item 5 on the agenda. I'm happy to talk about it now. So the way the project selection process has happened in the past is there would typically be a call for projects for one fund source at a time. And that one fund source would be Measure M, or it would be one cycle of the OBAG, which is STP dollars, or it could be a call for projects for STIP dollars, which is a state transportation improvement program dollars. Whereas in 2021, we saw an opportunity to align several of these fund sources that I just mentioned, and did one large call for projects, or combined call, that we called the SCTA funding program cycle 1. And by combining all these fund sources, we're able to cobble together $67 million in discretionary funds that's at the discretion of the SCTA board. And that allowed us to ask the jurisdictions what their needs were. They all submitted those detailed applications, project fact sheets. You can go to our website and see the full gamut of projects that were selected in a tabular format or matrix format, and then click on it, actually see the applications that they submitted for each project. And then it was the February board meeting where those final programming recommendations were made. There were some draft recommendations that happened along the way based on timing and deadlines for the various fund sources, but the overall program was approved in February of this year. So going forward, ideally, we would continue to combine fund sources for that economy of scale in rating applications, as well as to be able to address a geographic distribution, not having a smaller pot of funds that can't address as many needs.
So for the purposes of this committee, we'll see the same process more or less in 24 than as we did this past year in 23 in February.
So it's not always an annual process. So the timing of the next one
Might
would
move a little bit.
It could be in 24, it could be into 25.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any other comments or questions? Yeah, Tom.
Change the subject just a little bit, but
Okay.
stay on this item. I know Jeff's organization is concerned about, and all of us are concerned about, the maintenance of our existing roadways. And I noticed that the fraction's going up substantially in that area. But I was curious if there's any analogous organizational changes around making sure that that additional money is producing the results where we need them the most. Has there been any discussion about that? Is that something that, Jeff, you might have some perspective on, or others might have perspective on?
Well, was my understanding, Bob, that money was block granted to the individual districts. And that those individual districts have to carry on what they feel is important. We do meet with, Sonoma County and Santa Rosa, and different people to try to see what the priorities are and publish a list of that on our website. But I don't know that you're gonna have much hand in it, right?
In street selection, no, but in distribution of the dollars, we distribute them on a quarterly basis. That's reported out as one of those numbers in the financial reports that come out. When we get to the financial reports, we can look at that section in particular and talk about what they received last year. And then every year they're required to report out to us as part of the annual reporting process. And that's where we confirm exactly where they spent the dollars, what dollars they actually spent, and what dollars they carried forward. So you're right, we don't get into the actual selection of the streets. But
There was a discussion about this, I believe it was even last meeting, or maybe 2 meetings ago, where I think we were kind of talking about maybe Sonoma County trying to do a little bit better on their reporting.
I remember that.
Others had done better, from the way I understand it.
And they also had 2 years in a row not met their maintenance of effort requirement.
Really?
And so they actually lost some dollars to the other jurisdictions. And so that it's, even though we don't pick the streets, we do make sure that they are dedicating those funds, those discretionary funds, and not supplanting them with other funds.
And we did follow up with that. Shauna, I think it's just Shauna and I went and talked with Janice Thompson and 2 or 3 other staffers and expressed our, I don't know if I'd say dissatisfaction, but our concern, I suppose, over.
We're disappointed they didn't make
We're just, our disappointment, that's a better way.
Was the question of containing the maintenance, or was it the question of reporting the maintenance that they did?
It was reporting the maintenance of the.
It was the accuracy of the report.
Right.
Yeah,
Or
that's
the detail is a better way to put it, of the
Yeah.
report. And I'm fairly disappointed to hear they didn't make their maintenance of effort requirements. Seems like an easy way to get money.
It wasn't, if I remember correctly, it wasn't a huge amount of money that they were
Right.
not taking advantage of.
Well, they had their standard maintenance and they'd also had bonus years.
Yeah,
And so I'm not really sure if they didn't meet the bonus or they didn't meet the, because when they have those bonus years, then that might bring forward their kind of standard maintenance effort
yeah,
higher. So I'm not aware of those numbers.
yeah, I don't either, and not to defend them, but they, they have had their hands full.
Yeah, they have had their
With
hands-
projects and management.
There's a lot of projects on the books.
Yeah, you're right.
We've seen them, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, a lot of work's getting done.
Thank you, good discussion on all that, James.
So go on to the next item, if you like, Chair.
Yes.
Drew, will you just allow me to share? And then it's kind of a good opportunity for me to just share screen and then also get into a little bit of the details of what we just talked about as part of the financial reports. We usually include them in the packet, don't have much discussion, but when there is an opportunity like this and an interest, so host has stopped your video, that's fine. And then share screen, and then I will not connect to audio, because if I connected to audio, that would get interesting for sure. So let's start out with jumping to our Measure M sales tax revenue. So we did get our August receivable from the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration. So we have an estimated audited number. Right, so there it is in blue. 1.22% is the increase for the last fiscal year. And it will, so that number will be part of the financial audits that come to this committee in October. There will be an audit adjustment that makes it so that that's the number based on the estimated accrual. And we're projecting fairly flat with a slight decrease for next year. Going into the actual financial reports, this was the part where, based on the questions about both local bus transit and local streets and roads, LSR, you can actually see what our jurisdictions get each year on those categories. So in the LSR category, how hard is that to see? I can make it a little bit. Let me point out 2 columns and then I'll zoom into the numbers so you can see the numbers better. This column here is the local streets and roads column. So that's the one for maintenance. This column here is the transit category, right? And this is the amount of dollars that they receive for the entire year. And if I go ahead and zoom in, starting with the maintenance numbers, you can see, so Sonoma County Public Works for last fiscal year generated, 2.7 million in Measure M dollars to help maintain their roads. I believe there was around 50,000 that they should have had more than that, but that 50,000 was actually redistributed to the other jurisdictions because they didn't meet their maintenance of effort. Next year, it's even less than that, that their deduction will be even smaller based on they were getting close to it. And so that gives you an idea of the dollars involved in our local streets and roads program, but it also can give you a flavor of when we go from 20% in this category to 38%, these numbers are going to come close to double when Go Sonoma goes into effect. And then the other one that I thought was noteworthy was the at the bottom of the screen here, the Petaluma Transit, Santa Rosa City Bus, and Sonoma County Transit numbers. Those numbers are essentially going to double when you include that free fare program. But when you talk about wanting to double the system, we're off by an order of magnitude here. This is a smaller percentage share than the other fund sources that fund transit in our county. When we look at the coordinated claim each year in the April-May timeframe.
It's about 10%. Is that what it is?
Yeah, about 10%. Maybe even a little bit less.
What is the column just to the right of the distributed amounts for each county?
So to the
And it has 55,000 per se in the Sonoma County column.
Okay.
What is that column?
Sure. So that, yes, so LSP is a local streets program.
Okay.
So that's the program for individual projects. So I can tell you that 55,000, if you see some work going out on Mark West Springs Road right now, where they're doing a little bit of widening and some sidewalk out there. That's what that 55,000 is the first payment for that job. And that'll go up to next fiscal year. You'll see the remainder of the $1 million allocation that's gone to that project being spent. And then, Santa Rosa has been doing some work on Hearn, as well as the big chunk of that 7 million is the Fulton job. But these are the numbers that we report out to you because of your responsibility for the oversight of M. What brings these numbers alive is the actual annual report, the strategic plan, where you can actually see them with pictures of projects and diagrams of projects. I'm not going to go any more detail unless there is any questions on our revenue or questions on our financials. I'd be happy to.
Seeing none. We can go ahead and continue to move on.
All right, great. So this last item is so it's the State Transportation Improvement Plan. It's the 2024, call it the 2024 STIP. STIP's just short, the acronym. The STIP is a fund source that comes from the state. It does have a federal component to the dollars, so it has a delivery process that's well suited to large projects on the highway system. And historically, it has funded big portions of our Highway 101 widening. Now that our Highway 101 widening is essentially complete and the remaining elements are fundable within our sales tax, we had the last funding cycle of the STIP, which is 2 years ago in 2022, which essentially went to complete street style projects, right? So the board focus of delivering complete street projects in Cotati, Rohnert Park, as well as one in regional parks that's in an out year in West County. Those projects, the first two in Cotati and Rohnert Park did have challenges with delivery because they have to go through a full federal process. They have to go through a Caltrans local assistance process, as well as a California Transportation Commission for both programming and allocation of the funds. This item's coming before you today to recommend a funding exchange. That funding exchange would allow for $9 million in Measure M Highway 101 dollars to be exchanged for $9 million in STIP funds. The $9 million in Measure M Highway 101 dollars could go to the landscaping project that is required based on the highway widening that has happened out there. But as opposed to spending the local dollars, we can spend the STIP dollars. So this is SCTA staff doing the project management for a large landscaping project of the entire corridor. And then take the Measure M dollars that we would have spent and then offer that up as part of a, call for projects or completing the call for projects that we did before with those existing lists that are in the packet. And making it easy for our jurisdictions to deliver those projects. So it's a way that we took this to our technical advisory committee last week. They were very pleased and supportive of it. And it's an administrative efficiency to do it this way. The other part of this item includes the actual recommendation for the rest of the STIP dollars. The STIP this year, so 2-year cycle, our portion is $16 million. That we can take $9 million and put it towards the funding exchange that I just described. The other recommendation is for $3.1 million to go to 8th Street East at State Route 121. The reason why that project was selected is because it's a Caltrans project on Caltrans right away that STIP dollars are essentially designed to be spent. So whenever you have the State Transportation Improvement Program doing work on a state highway, it meets the guidelines for the program much neater than doing off-system work. It's still eligible for off-system work. It's just the bureaucracy around it is more challenging. And then we owe MTC $3.4 million. So the plan is to repay MTC that debt and have them spend the $3.4 million. And then there's a smaller amount that's a little over $500,000, which essentially has planning, programming, and monitoring functions that are performed by the SCTA for oversight of these funds, as well as prepping the next cycle of STIP funding. So 2 components to this. One is the recommended STIP programming, and then the main component that it needed to come to this committee for is the component of the funding exchange with Measure M because of your financial oversight of the sales tax measure.
On that, very creative, on that funding exchange, it sounds like the TAC got into the weeds pretty good on this. Did they have any concerns that there could be any process where we are left holding the bag, so to speak? There's no way it's not going to happen and we're going to get replenished, right?
Correct. Yeah, any expenditures of, Measure M Highway 101 dollars would be replenished by the STIP funds and vice versa, right? The expenditure of our STIP funds that did not go to local jurisdictions complete street projects, which are essentially the style projects that are on our funding program that we're proposing to use those funds for, would get the opposite.
Okay, and so you're looking for a vote or direction from this committee to go ahead with this exchange.
Correct.
Okay.
I'd like to make the motion.
I'll second it. I'm solid.
And we're in discussion.
The only discussion I want to make was thank you for the explanation, because when I read these, I don't get it. That explanation was
Very
totally clear and it makes great sense.
So to follow up on that, this is essentially a change in classification of monies. I mean, there's no additional money or less money. It's just you're rearranging classifications. Correct. Okay. So to facilitate project management, easier project management. Okay.
And real quick, is there any fee?
Same sorts of projects were already planned. It's easier to do the managing.
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's less about the SCTA management. We can handle either. It's about, because you're dealing with a $9 million job. When you have a $9 million, you have an economy of scale to handle the paperwork. But when you're dealing with these smaller, 1 million or less than 1 million type projects, to have to do that same amount of paperwork is a burden to our jurisdictions.
Any fees associated with this exchange?
No.
Okay,
No fees. Yeah, it's all internal SCTA accounting and a board resolution that there's a draft of in your packet.
Very complicated, but as clean as you could make it. So thank you. Again, thanks for that. I was looking at actually, even before this meeting, you were going over this. I'm going, what? So appreciate it. Call for the question. All those in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Good job, James. Thank you. And I'll go back and see Harris.
I have been desperately trying to raise Christina, and again, as I said, I just got back from 3 weeks on
Yeah, no-
vacation, so I have no idea, but
No worries. Well, I'm just looking at the clock without the presentation. We got an early exit if we want to take it, but we'll go to announcements, I guess at this point. Yeah, Jerry.
Just one thing I wanted to bring up, in our last meeting, I asked the question about why we have 4 bus transit districts in one county, and Marin seems to do only one public. And you said there was a study that was done, you were gonna forward the study. But I don't remember seeing the link for the study.
They're also in the notes too. I didn't put that link in there.
You did? Okay, I missed it then. That's okay. My apologies.
Yeah, Rick. Go ahead, Rick.
You're on page 2, under item 4A.
Just want to make sure everybody saw the news that Mike Thompson has scored $155 million in federal funds to raise Highway 37 over Novato Creek. Admittedly, that's in Marin County, between 101 and Black Point, but I'm sure it's good news for a lot of people in Sonoma County who need to use that road. For example, people in Sonoma Valley.
Yeah, I like the projected, it might have been a little pie in the sky, start time of that first project. I think it was it raising the bridge over San Antonio Creek, I believe? But they were talking about making that go to bid late 24, early 25. So
Well, the figure I saw was 2027.
2027 is the piece today. They're talking about raising the earth between the interchange.
okay, that was 27. Okay.
The actual part that's connected to the water.
Got it. All right. That's still that when I don't know where I read 24, 25. That's awfully quick. So
Yeah,
27
figure-
sounds more like it.
The data I saw was they start in 2027 and finish in 2029.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's a ways down the road. They have to raise the highway by 30 feet,
Right.
all the way
Right.
from 101 to Black Point, so. That's a major project.
So for those of us been following this this process for how many years? 12, 13 years. We go back to the meetings out at Sears Point, and UC Davis was out there, and Caltrans and so forth, and they were talking about Chicago Bridge. Anyways, the group that had a couple failures down in Florida, which kind of negated their their solvency, but it's been an interesting process going through all this, and now we're actually going to finally see something come to fruition here in the next 4 or 5 years. It's pretty exciting stuff, actually.
I think it's Novato Creek.
It might be Novato rather than San Antonio. Yeah.
John, one more question.
Yeah.
Different topic. We started with BYD buses in the county for the electric buses, and we went to Proterra, and Proterra just declared Chapter 11. Do we have any update as to whether that will impact the program? Okay.
The price might go up.
The price might go up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a
There's.
couple things to share. One is, so on my vacation, I was out backpacking out in the Tahoe Basin and had some transit adventures out there. Some parts of the area have really excellent bicycle pathways and systems. They don't, however, go all the way around, right? Because just like we have here, differing jurisdictions and which ones, you know, there's a whole section on the north and east side of the lake, and then a whole section on the south side, but they don't connect, and there's nothing on the Nevada side. But they're in both South Lake and Orontago City, both those areas, all the buses were free. And they're what do you call it, the stuff that like we have at the airport, where you call and get a ride specifically there, that is also free. So all of that was free, which was kind of cool, but the disconnection and, I ended up having to, hitchhike at gaps because they didn't go all the way around, or take Uber if I could get a signal. And similarly, they have some really great bike infrastructure, but again, it doesn't go all the way around or everywhere that it needs to. So it was just sort of that like, okay, well, they're doing good stuff. They got maybe some more than we do, but still not perfect. And then just the other announcement I want to make is we have the Bike Coalition has an event, Golden Spoke Awards and fundraising gala coming up on September 30th. We're going to be giving out some awards for Best Bike Advocates of the Year and Best Bike Infrastructure Project of the Year. And there's another one that I'm forgetting, and have some great food and wine and auction items and stuff like that. So I'll make sure you all get invites for that.
How do people nominate the advocates and the projects?
Hmm?
How do we nominate the advocates, best advocates and best
I,
projects?
the nominations closed already. Sorry, I should have announced this last time we was here.
You're out.
Gee whiz.
Oh, God. Well, no, I was gonna nominate Mr. Lang here.
Oh,
He rode all the way around Tahoe. Anyways, thank you,
That's it.
Iris. Yeah. Anything else for the good of the game? Danny?
No,
Nothing?
ready to adjourn?
Ready to adjourn?
Ready to adjourn?
World records.
Yeah.
Well, we can still.